That was when that would be the trigger. That when Peter Schiff buys the load of Bitcoin, everyone sell.
That'll be the top.
So welcome back. We are potentially starting the next the next phase of the bull market potentially, where we get that horrific dip, that ugly 18, 20, 30% correction, and then everyone thinks it's over for it to go higher. That's what it feels like. We're going to talk about some news bits. We're going to talk about the market, obviously. And more importantly, we're going to focus on market emotions, because I think people threw the baby out the bathwater yesterday, literally, with the reaction to the market. We did drop a lot. We caught a bid. Now we're at $9,000. It's mad. So guys, let me know, how have your trades been going? Because I remember last week you were saying it's been a nightmare. Think of it the other way around. It's on the opposite. We've gone basically down the stairwell and bounced on a trampoline. It's wild, isn't it?
It's all happened a bit too quick, to be honest. We're breaking down all through yesterday morning, and then as soon as the US market opened, we dropped a tiny little bit, and then bang, we just set off. Too quick for me to get into anything, especially the way I trade. I try and trade on momentum, and with us being right on the range lows, looking to break down, it's one of those where you can't really short because you're already at support, and then the long just happened too quickly. So we're in a bit of a difficult spot now in terms of we've bounced up so much, and when we're now sort of in that mid-range area. I mean, what do we do now? Do we chop around for a little bit? Do we retest that wick? Maybe we just go straight back up to over 100. It's difficult to know. But yeah, a lot of volatility yesterday, lots of emotions on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Jim Cramer put out that tweet saying that it was going to be a bloodbath. And as always, he gets it wrong.
Delivered.
So yeah, but as I say, a lot of emotions on the timeline yesterday about it's all over, and a lot of people saying for the top to be in as well, which I think is premature. I don't think the top is in at 100k. I think we've at least got one more leg in us, maybe another.
Yeah, it was hard yesterday. I traded it a little bit in terms of I caught like an $89,000-$90,000 bid. Pure chance guess. It wasn't anything sort of amazing. It was a support level. I normally go with momentum as well. I tend to try and find the direction where it's going, then hopefully aim to get in at some point. But wow, it's like I did the opposite and I got out really, really well, to be fair. Could have left it longer. But I was on a live stream yesterday as it was happening. I tend to do my market mobs live streams during when the US Open happens. And honestly, the emotion that was going through X at the time and the emotion in my comment feed was ridiculous. It was like, oh shit. And like, even we'll look at the charts, but I looked at it and thought, wow, we're going to lose this range. And we were at like 89, nearly $88,000.
Yeah, hit 89k on the button.
Yeah, when you think about where the level was, the range low was around $92,000, $91,000. That's a long drop, and it was a horrible wicket. It caught a bid, which is good. Some of the news that came out yesterday was probably one of the more obvious parts about it. And yeah, you mentioned about late shorts and stuff. And you don't want to short like levels of support, but ultimately sometimes you got to wait for that retest and you got to have that patience. And it didn't come to go short, but obviously it's bounced. So I'm looking now at the liquidations, and it was like nearly $700 million was
a lot of liquidations.
There's a lot, but that's the tail of the tape, and that's what it has been over the last couple of weeks. And we talk about this quite a lot. Emotion and high leverage and people wanting to make it are really getting heightened right now. And it's going to showcase a lot in terms of the emotion, because people want to have that end goal, and that end goal is to make lots of money. For some reason, people want to get rich quick in crypto. It doesn't quite work like that when you're using really high leverage and you get blown up at every opportunity. And I've seen many people do it. It just doesn't make sense. Like, why would you want to risk it? There's no real point. So yeah, it's very emotional at the minute. I think some of the calls that have been said have been very interesting. Yeah, it's a lot of it is technical analysis. A lot of it is uncertainty in the market because of obviously Donald Trump coming into office very, very soon. Obviously, we've got CPI data tomorrow, which we could touch on. We've got FOMC coming up. We've obviously had a really good non-farm payroll on the Friday just gone. So there's a lot of things happening, but ultimately the yields in the market and the bond market, etc., is really high. The dollar is absolutely mooning, and that needs batted down quite significantly, which is probably one of the biggest problems we've got. So yeah, it's not fun, but ultimately I don't think it's over yet. As much as we were bearish in the last video, and feel free to subscribe, like, and comment, we do think still on that narrative that, well, altcoins, not everyone's going to go up to the moon. I think it is very much a very cyclical period of certain types of asset that will do well. But if you're in them and you've got conviction, you bought the lows, you might do very, very well. So you don't need to go balls deep with the leverage or put your house on it or whatever, or sell your kids or your dog. Just play the game, play the
You say
market cycles.
you say buy the lows, but which lows? There's
Yeah,
been a lot of them on all.
that's a good point. And as much as we teach, and we've been teaching for years, and feel free to check out our website and stuff, but we do talk about, well, you got two things. You've got momentum and you've got buy key levels. And sometimes you do catch a bid, and sometimes you'll buy like on the BTC pair and it's like really low and you think, wow, that's historic lows. Sometimes they will pop up off them and sweet, but dollar cost averaging is like very selective. I think with certain cryptos you can do it, but some of them there's literally no point. So it's one of those. It's quite you're stuck between a rock and a hard place with crypto. Unfortunately, it still, in my opinion, it still behaves very different to a stock, and I think that should be known. Like, if you come from the stock market, you're trying to like just grow wealth. You've got to really stick with Bitcoin. That's the top and bottom of it. So one thing that did happen yesterday, and I think this is it's like true crypto. This is like proper
Classic.
bull market vibes.
Classic.
Jamie Dimon still sees no value. What on earth? So, for obvious reasons, he has been a long-term kind of absolute, pain in the ass, really. When we talk about the news that came out and the price action that came out yesterday and stuff, this kind of like probably truly marked somewhat of the bottom of yesterday's move, because him coming out and saying that, and it came out literally not too far away from when the market really started to rebound. It's like really, really funny. It's just like the Jim Cramer kind of vibe of, oh my God, if you say something silly, it's going to get hurt. And this happens every single time. And, we talk about 2017, what he was saying, either 2019, 2020. Every single year he says something ridiculous. And already a couple of days into the new year, and he's already saying, well, it's got no value. I mean, let's be honest. I think he's massively off there. But hey, what do I know? I mean, don't get me wrong, he's got a lot of money in that, but ultimately, if you're a part of JP Morgan and you're the CEO, you should realistically not be saying that nowadays, especially when you've got the institutional money coming in and Donald Trump about to probably do something with it. So yeah, Bitcoin
He's
itself
got.
has no intrinsic value. What? Come on.
He's obviously got his motivations. It's all politics, isn't it? When you're in those kinds of positions, so he's saying it for a reason.
Yeah, he wants to buy low, but I think
Yeah.
I don't think it works anymore now. I think
I
trying to
remember him
flood
saying it
your
back in.
bags doesn't work.
No, I remember him saying it back in 2017, and that actually made the price drop about like 20% or something.
Yeah, but now it's a stronger market now. You got to think 2017, we were running really high, and obviously that was hopium hype. And when you think about it, like even back then, there wasn't any short in markets. It's a different market now. You can go both ways, and that will provide liquidity and funding and all that kind of. It's a different beast now. It really is, and that did make me laugh. And you've obviously, it's just one of those things where like there's only so many times you can say something and become relevant, and that's the thing. Like, let's be honest, like, if you hate it, you hate it. It's like Peter Schiff. We know you hate it. We don't care. We're more surprised when you actually buy it. To be honest with you, that'll be the one. That would be the trigger. That when Peter Schiff buys a load of Bitcoin, everyone sell.
That'll be the top.
The other way around. But yeah, it's one of those. But other than that, like in terms of news and bits and pieces, like I'm not going to put the screen on for this bit, but for me, we talk about Donald Trump and the Bitcoin reserve and the strategic element of who's going to come in power around him and who's pro Bitcoin, who's not pro Bitcoin. I think stuff like that is going to be what is going to be very, very interesting. What's going to be the next leg? Are we going to start seeing, like, obviously he said, I'm pretty sure he said, he was like, we expect Bitcoin to become gold market capitalization. And that's what he said in the Bitcoin conference. And stuff like that is interesting, but ultimately, it's all if, but to maybes, and we can't go off what people say in a conference, which is full of Bitcoin kind of, maxes, so to speak. So it's,
Yeah,
it's
there's
interesting.
you can be playing to the crowd, can't you?
That's the thing. Obviously, yes, it's, I honestly don't believe that the Bitcoin appearances have certainly helped him in any way to become president. That's obvious. We're not big enough. But getting us on side in terms of the financial side and understanding and having that kind of element of understanding about obviously inflation, finance, dollar, whatever, and then Bitcoin's very, very interesting, certainly from a president point of view. But then again, we talk about it, like we've said this before, like, do we want the government to be in bed with us? Not particularly. So yeah, it's interesting. We just don't want it to become kind of like another narrative that comes as a bit of a problem, which it might do. Maybe. We'll see. But other than that, nothing crazy's happened. This morning, news just came out about Robinhood has been hit with a 45 million SEC settlement. SEC can go and bugger off, basically, because they're always late to the game. And that's pretty
That's
much it.
probably all going to start changing as well with the new
Yeah,
presidency
exactly. That's another huge factor.
administration.
It's going to be interesting to see where it goes, but there's many catalysts there. Like, will Donald Trump release Ross from Silk Road out of prison in the next couple of weeks? Who knows? That'll be probably the most obvious one to get everyone on side, realistically. For me, I think he's served his time and he should be out now. He's got a ridiculous sentence. But that's just the fundamentals of like the history of Bitcoin and how it's evolved over time. Whether that happens or not, we shall, find out, so to speak.
I think we're at probably around belief.
Yeah.
I think I'm surprised we didn't get more retail come back when we broke 100K. I thought maybe there would be a bit more FOMO, but I think that's sort of where we are. Time to get fully invested. We've not quite had that blow off top yet. There's obviously a few theories floating around. As we mentioned before, some people reckon the top's already in. I don't think so. But then the two main theories are either A, we top out in Q1, sort of March, April time, and that's the end of the cycle. Or the other one is that we have some sort of top or local top in Q1, then we chop around for the summer, and then similar to the last cycle, we then have another run at the end of the year in Q4. So yeah, we'll have to see which one of those. I mean, it's possible that neither of those come true, but I think they're the most likely and logical paths. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm on the side of belief as well. I think you got to think disbelief down at 15k, the hope up to 30k, the optimism up to 60, and then belief up to 100k. And I think the follow through hasn't happened yet. But we think now, like we obviously went down to 88, $89,000 like the day before we were recording. Now we're at 97,000. We've bounced significantly. What if we just keep going and like, wow, and we go into frill and we go to 120, 130k into a market top. And one thing that was interesting yesterday, I spotted a tweet. I can't remember what the tweet was. It was all about money flow and liquidity cycles and repeating of 2017, 2018.
Oh yeah,
Adam,
the target for that is something ridiculous, isn't it? Like 1.6 million.
yeah.
Yeah,
And Adam Backed put that, said that if we repeat that, we'd do a 16x from today's prices. And
yeah,
I saw that and I thought, I looked at my own targets and think I cannot even compute as going up to 250k. And like I worked out my portfolio and I was thinking, right, if I get to 250k, I'll be very, 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 very happy. And then someone goes and says, but it could go to 1 point. It's literally that meme, isn't it? You've made a 10x, but it can 10x more. Come and
yeah.
give me a cuddle. It's like, fuck, I cannot compute that. And that's where we're at in terms of like, I don't think we've hit the full juice squeeze, so to speak, of the asset, but I think that is borderline ridiculous. I think if we get to like 300, 400k, I would probably be out of position quite. I wouldn't say like probably out. Yeah, I probably would be actually. Probably would be quite significantly out. Thinking, you know what? How much more can this go? Because that would be ridiculous. And the thing is, right? What if it does happen? Right? We'll go to like 400k and then we retrace down to 300k and it's like, oh, that's it at the top. And then it just goes on another leg and it's like, oh my God. Like, we just don't know, right? And we're talking about that in terms of where we are right now. We went down to 89k. Are we going to go back up to 100k? Potentially, yes. Is it over? A lot of people think it was yesterday. So when we talk about that, we're obviously at that point where people are getting interested, but if we are going to chop around like this, it's going to just suffocate the potential of retail coming in. And if we are going to chop for months and months and months, it's going to be even more, it's going to be crap. It's going to be rubbish for altcoins. No offense to altcoin holders. I know we battered you yesterday. Not yesterday. No, I battered you
Last
yesterday
week.
on my live stream. Last week we battered you. Sorry. So yeah, stuff like that's going to be really, really important to know about the emotions. And there's only so long people can go on for. And then when we look at YouTube and you put in cryptocurrency, you got all these people doing videos about, oh, you're going to make like 100x. They've been saying that same video for the last 6 years, pretty much, and they're still there doing it. And I still think, yes, we're at belief. And I think the thrill stage for me will be a clear break of 108 going up to 120, 130K. And that'll be when I think people will really start to take notice. And then it'll be that weird kind of perspective of like USDT prices doing really well, but ultimately your BTC pairs doing shit. If they catch a bid though, they might well catch up, and then we might well see that follow through for retail to come back. But easier said than done. We've had it a few times where like a couple of people have returned. Obviously, the XRP army has returned now, so to speak. Hi, but yeah, that they've taken a while. But it might happen, it might not. But yeah, I think yesterday was a really interesting point of like everything. Like everyone was like really upset, and then now it's like today, it's like, well, we're going to 1 million, boys and girls. So it's absolutely wild, really. So I would like to report a bug to TradingView and declare that this is broken because it's very green.
What
It's
is that?
pretty wild, really, when you think about it. But
That 8 hour. That 8 hour looks very solid.
very
Take my time.
juicy. So when I was on my live stream yesterday, we were like literally here. I was like, oh my God. Like we've definitely lost that. We didn't, obviously. Now we're up here. It's pretty wild to think how it reacts. And, if I zoom out a little bit, we potentially do have a very nice little, well, kind of a bit of a deviation there, but a bit of a range is starting to form here. Now, this is the thing. If we go back to the last kind of year where January was very, very boring, it would be nice if it was. But I think these swings are a little bit large. We needed to kind of do nothing, realistically, like weekend price action, do nothing. I don't think that's going to happen. If it does happen, I think altcoins will do well, and I think we're kind of in agreement with how alt seasons will kind of run. But ultimately, when we're looking at all these green numbers, yeah, it's great. But the BTC pairs have been absolutely battered over the last couple of weeks. Really, like, ever since the start of the year, this has gone up from 56 up to, well, it's nearly at 59%. It was nearly at 59 at one point this morning. No,
It looks like quite a nasty fake out, the Bitcoin dominance breakdown, doesn't it?
yeah, it does.
Go
It
on
looks a bit.
on the weekly.
Let's have a look at the
It looks
weekly.
like it
Oh
was
yeah,
going to make a lower high, and now it looks like it's actually going to invalidate that.
it's going to go higher.
It's made a higher low.
When we talk about XRP, and I mentioned this a few times, if that didn't happen, we're at 62% probably, give or take around them numbers, or up around here at least. It probably would be actually, because you got XLM, Hedger Hashgraph, XRP. They all did very well, and they've all mattered on the dominance, and they've actually held their price pretty well. So yeah, stuff like that, very, very interesting. But ultimately, we're still at high dominance. We're still at points where you should realistically be considering your altcoin positions because they are very low. When we talk about the total 3/BTC, this is what we've got. It's a bit ugly, I know. It doesn't look the greatest bit of kit. Bear with me. Let me go to a better time frame. There we go. So what we've done, we've obviously pulled back quite significantly, and we've went up to probably roughly around 50% mark, to be fair, on the fib. But are we going to break down and go back and retest some of these previous levels at 0.49? Potentially, yes, because it looks like, this is going to, I think it's going to go lower. And if we are going to kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit and just talk about little baby swings here, so to speak, this little swing here went right up to the 618, and then we're probably going to go into this kind of area anyways. So it looks like obviously if Bitcoin continues doing well, this is probably going to just continue just dying off a little bit, because it feels like this is like a deviation kind of lower high. This is going to form the trend, and we're probably going to zigzag a little bit down into here. Bit ugly, I know. Whether we go back down to these low levels from November time, another story. But again, the big problem that we do have is obviously the Ethereum BTC chart. This still looks like
Can't
that.
find a
It's
low.
still, yeah, it's struggling to find where it needs to be. And whether we go down to these sort of old levels, that could be interesting, by the way.
that 0.025 level is what I've marked out as well. If you go on the monthly, it's like a real clear level.
Yeah, even on the weekly, it looks pretty clear. 3 day, sorry, that's the weekly, sorry. So that's the weekly time frame. That goes right the way through course of history. And then on the monthly, it's like, hello,
Yeah.
fancy a bounce. So yeah,
And
it's one of those.
on the monthly, as you can see, it is just a honking downtrend.
That is one of the worst charts I've ever seen in my life. Actually, no, it's not. I tell a lie. It's up there though.
Well, outside of flat out rugs and scams, that is got to be one of the worst. Especially, it's got to be the worst in terms of a big asset.
Yeah, I think that's where
Apart
the
from like
controversy
Luna,
comes in. For playing top trumps, that wins in terms of the worst looking chart. But you've got other ones that look like this, which is BNB. Looks a little bit better. AVAX, not great.
not much better.
Solana, okay,
I'm
but in a bit
surprised
of a
that
dangerous spot.
yeah. I mean, is that going to be one of those where it looks like it's breaking down and then all of a sudden, catch the bid and survives, or is that actually going to start breaking down and losing market share?
Well, that's the thing. That's where we're at, I think, in this market cycle. We're at that market phase of will we or won't we? What's going to move? What's not going to move? Right. And that's the whole point of like the market emotion. It's like, that's why crypto is hard. You think it's all over and then it's not, right? And or you think it's just starting and then it doesn't, whatever way it wants to go, really. So stuff like that is pretty important. And again, we could talk about a lot of things, like they all look awful, but we go off the last week's video. Feel free to watch it if you've not watched it yet. We all believe, like we're looking at the monthly time frame, it looks clear as mud. Clear as mud. Yeah, it probably is actually for a lot of people. They're not going to go up to these levels of all-time highs ever again. They're not, because it's probably got to be very, very hard to do so. And you're going to catch bids, and yeah, they're going to bounce, but how far do they bounce, right? And when you think about this, what if it does go up here and randomly just plonk up here? Will you be happy with like a 242% in the BTC pair? You're probably not. But if you got the bottom and also in combination with Bitcoin doing very well and maybe doing a 2 or 3x in its own price, you've probably done all right. But that's the thing. Are we starting that market phase? In the market cycle, we are actually on par with it perfectly. But altcoins are really at, in my opinion, proper capitulation levels. Like obviously Ethereum, if that goes there, it's gonna hurt. And if Bitcoin goes up even more, it's just gonna probably make that happen a lot faster than you think. And I think that's where the emotion will really start to like come out. And my Discord channel on my Patreon yesterday wasn't fun viewing. There was a lot of people losing their brains yesterday. Learning crypto Discord, you can join it for free. Wasn't too bad yesterday. It was pretty calm, collective. Normally is, to be fair, but it just depends. Everyone's different makeup of people, which is interesting. But yeah, the USD price is just, even the US. Let's be honest, like look at that. The USD prices don't look great. Like look at that
That
Solana.
that chart does not look good.
Nah, it looks like cack. But it may look like crap for now, and then all of a sudden it just changes. Like, oh, because we've still got 17 days left.
Hmm.
Bitcoin one looks interesting. Look at that, like a proper like meaty rejection, rejection, rejection.
Yeah,
Oh,
that wick as well looked like it was clearing it, and then yeah, back down.
wrong chart.
I mean,
Ethereum.
even to be honest, even the Bitcoin monthly looks a little dodgy. It looks a little bit better now, but if you look at
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it looks a lot better today. But
yeah.
yesterday, when that candle was red and that
Oh,
had that big wick, it was like, oh, do you know what? Like, if that was any other asset, you'd be like, looks that looks scary.
but ultimately, right, we could be thinking, what if this is the bottom? What if
Hmm.
that hold level there was the bottom in and around this region? I'll go to a lesser time frame. We've hit this range low. What if now we're at the 382 and the next room is all the way up to these 134, 119 levels, or up to these levels, which could be even more interesting? That's what I mean. Like we look at this chart and we think, right, push, consolidation,
Base,
push,
yeah, push
consolidation,
base.
push. Every time. This was a real big one. This is
Hmm.
ugly. But ultimately, it's all kind of following the path of what it normally does. And then we talk about obviously ECF volume and strategic reserve and the market motions and people giving up and all that kind of whatever, right? Bitcoin will do what Bitcoin wants to do, and ultimately, if this pumps and the altcoins don't go with it, it's going to hurt. But then again, you're going to get more and more media press coverage. If we do one big pump, right, and we fly up and then we consolidate and do nothing, it might be the best thing it'll do because it might allow altcoins to actually breathe for once. But
We've
that's
said
all
that
if,
so
buts,
many
maybe, isn't
times.
it?
Yeah, we've said that so many times. If Bitcoin can just go sideways and consolidate, but it just doesn't seem to work.
This one was the only one realistically where it did actually do it, and that was at this time frame as well. And this of the year where we had a fake out, we had a rejection, and then we went. But ultimately, it's the same sort of situation. We've had a pull, we've pulled back, we've had a rejection, and we've kind of started again. It's kind of a bit, that's the problem with it. It's stop, start, stop, start. And yes, we could be talking, yeah, we're going into the mania stage, and that is true. So when we talk about the bull market and obviously phases, like this is kind of where we're at, and we're at that phase where realistically, let's be honest, as much as I've talked about this nearly every day for fucking a week now, or 2 weeks, or a month, every cycle we pull back in this region, but we are on par with it. It's not too bad. If we do repeat, keyword if, and we continue like the last two cycles going into the end of February, no, end of January into February, and or going into March and following all the way through into April, that would be perfect. And it goes with what you said. What if the top is in April? Like, that's a possibility. Don't get me wrong, it may well pull back. Selling may go away, remember that phase. And then another little leg into August, September. Yeah, cool. But again, it's all if, buts, and maybes. If we're going to go into it and we're going to have that real obvious kind of pullback, which is in January, so on average, the third, fourth worst performing month in the history of Bitcoin. February usually is quite good. March is usually quite good. April can be quite good too. Might be perfect. And what if we do? And I've said this before. What if we repeat those last year kind of performance? It's like 160k. What would you do if Bitcoin was 160k? Would you hold on or would you sell some?
It all depends, doesn't it, on how we got there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's a 10x from the bottom, and if it's happening in that sort of March April timeframe, you think could be close to a peak, even if it's not the peak. Yeah, I think 160k is probably a big target for most people. So yeah, it could be a very interesting area.
It's in between the Fibonacci extensions, which is key, history and all that. So that'll be interesting. But that's why, like, I'll go back to that prediction of like, oh, it's going to be 1.6 million. It's like, what? What are you on about? It blows everything out the water completely. Whether that happens or not. Well, what about if we don't get a full-on bear market and we just keep trickling up and it's just what supply demand and we just hodl forever sort of vibe? That's the thing as well. Like, you got to look at that side of it. I don't think that'll happen personally. I think we still will get a bear market. I think we will get that cycle blow up.
Everything goes through cycles. Every market,
Exactly.
gold, stocks, everything has a cycle.
I mean, yeah, if we go 200k and then we go back down to 100k in the bear market, sweet, cool. If you've taken profit and you've been able to build a position somewhere else, you then put your money back into Bitcoin at the lows. You get more units for free, and then you just repeat the process. You just start much higher. Every cycle's got that sort of affiliation of $500 to 20k, down to $3,000, up to 69, then up to 15k. It zigzags up, doesn't it? That's the thing. I think that'll be the next emotion where we're never going to pull back. We're never going to go below whatever. Yeah, this time's different.
That's what everyone said last cycle. Everyone thought last cycle was the super cycle to above 100k.
Yeah, lengthening cycles.
But yeah, the top will be interesting. It's a consensus that the top will be this year. But again, that's not even guaranteed. So nothing is.
Top might have been last year. We just don't know.
Yeah, or next year. Who knows?
Yeah, imagine that. But yeah, what percentage risk are you in terms of Bitcoin? How much of your portfolio is Bitcoin right now?
Oh, like 90%.
90.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Mine's, I think, 73-ish.
After we had that rally after the election, and when alt started fading, then I thought, you know what, like I've had enough of this. Like I thought that was going to be the altcoin rally because dominance was so high, And I thought, breaking 100K was the final sort of FOMO moment where retail would come back in and, dominance would break. BTC might, find a bit of strength, find a bit of a bottom. But when they failed that rally after the election, I thought, you know what, like if it's not now, I don't know when it is. So I'd rather just go back to Bitcoin and hold that. I mean, maybe opportunities present themselves further down the line. But as you said, the chances of getting the chances of getting those huge returns from the previous cycles are pretty much gone now, I think, unless something really crazy happens. I think, if they bring back QE or something like that. But even just to get like a 100, 200% move, is it actually worth the risk? I don't know whether it is. However, this is probably famous last words. And this is exactly what the market does. It makes people capitulate on altcoins. And then just when everyone gives up, bang, the alt BTC pairs run. So probably falling into a bit of a trap, but it is what it is. It's about capital preservation at the end of the day, isn't it?
I agree. I think for context, this 100, 200% move on Bitcoin pair will be hard. But obviously, if the USD pairs go up with that due to Bitcoin doing well, it'll probably be a bit more. But is it life changing money? No. I would rather keep my own money. I'm about 73% Bitcoin, and the most of my portfolio is in runes, so it's all attached to Bitcoin in some way, shape, or form. I've only got a couple of altcoins, and they're very, very little, but obviously they do have a relationship with Bitcoin. Stacks, for example, Magic Eden, for example. So there's only a bit of Solana that I hold, and that'll probably get put in Magic Eden, to be fair. But yeah, I'm the same. I think it's going to be very, very, very interesting where we go, and I think that life changing spread is, well, no, the life changing gains and then the spread of it is going to be different. I can't see it being we're going to make 50x on, say, Chainlink or something daft like that. If something like that happens, something's gone crazy. But I don't know. It's interesting. I think the emotions of it is different, and I think we will get that thrill phase and that euphoria, and people will think it's going to go much higher, but it actually doesn't, and probably people will be caught holding bags quite significantly, to be fair. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, I think we're early in terms of like the Bitcoin move. We're getting to that point of like that mania stage where it tends to go a bit berserk. And yeah, history shows us it does really do well. But what history has not shown us in the past, or compared to now, altcoins tend to go with it. And they haven't. They might, but is it worth that risk? Whereas I'm now attached to my Bitcoin. You might be now. You probably don't want to sell your Bitcoin, especially if it goes to like 150, 160, 200K, maybe even higher. You'd be like, why would I want to sell that for altcoins when it actually could underperform? That's where I have a problem, but everyone doesn't see it like that. I get a lot of comments all the time go, well, why not buy altcoins? Well, they're not showing me anything over 3 years to actually keep me in them, never mind wanting to buy them. So it's one of those, isn't it? So one final thing before we go. Do you think that 89, $88,000 tickle was the bottom of this run? I got a feeling it might not be, but the reaction from it was pretty strong. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, strong reaction. Those wicks do generally tend to get filled. That being said, we've got a lot of catalysts coming up, as you mentioned at the beginning, with data coming out, and then we've got the inauguration as well. So, gun to my head, I probably would say that is it, but happy to be proven wrong, and may well be.
The only thing that I have a reservation is a 21% pullback, is which what we've done quite a lot in 2024 and even 2023. 21% would give it down to 85, I think. But if it happens, it happens. I think the reaction was stronger than I expected. I honestly thought in my live stream yesterday that was it. I think we lost that level, and we're probably going to go down to 85. But a very, very strong reaction, which was pretty damn awesome.